Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hari Om.
सहना भवतु सहनो भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। श्री गीता ध्यानम्। ॐ पार्थाय प्रबोधितां भगवतां नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां ज्ञानमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्धामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणी। नमोऽस्तु ते व्यासविशालबुद्धे पुल्लारविन्दाय तपत्रनेत्रा येन त्वया भारततैलपूर्णः प्रज्वालितो ज्ञानमयप्रदीपः प्रपन्नपारिजाताय स्तोत्रवैत्रेकपाणये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतदुहे नमः। सर्वोपनिषदो गावो दुग्धा गोपालनन्दनः पार्थो वत्सः सुधीर्भोक्ता दुग्धं गीतामृतं महत्। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं। भीष्मद्रोणतटा जयद्रथजला गान्धारनीलोत्पला शल्यग्राहवती कृपेणवहनी कर्णेन वेलाकुला अश्वत्थामविकर्णघोरमकरा दुर्योधनावर्तिनी स्तोतीर्णा खलु पाण्डवैर्ननदी कैवर्तककेशवः पाराशर्यवचः सरोजमकरम् गीतार्थगन्धोद्भटम् नानाख्यानकलेसरम् हरिकथा सम्बोधनाबोधितम् लोके सज्जनषट्परैर्नहरः पीपीयमानं मुदा भूयात् भारतपङ्कजं कलिमल प्रध्वंसिनश्यते मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयति यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवम्। यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः दिव्यैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदे गायन्ति यं सामगाः। ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनो यस्यान्तं न विदुः Ragana Devaya Tasmai Namaha Devaya Tasmai Namaha Devaya Tasmai Namaha.
Hari Om. So Bhagavan says, O Partha, those who worship me, renouncing all actions in me, with me as the Supreme, meditating upon me or meditating on me with single-minded devotion, I lift them out of the ocean of mortal life without any delay. I free them from samsara. And he says, fix your mind on me and place your intellect in me at all times. And if you are unable to do that steadily, then constantly practice it. Abhyasa yogena. You cannot do that also, then perform actions for my sake. Mat karma. The Navavidha Bhakti. These actions help one to practice that abhyasena. Cannot do that also. Cannot do mat karma also. Then do anything. Anything you please. Anything you have to do. Anything you want to do. Just renounce the desire for fruits of whatever you are doing. Taking refuge in me. So Bhagavan keeps saying me, me, me. You know, sometimes it may occur to us, you know, and a lot of people, it does occur. Like, why is this Bhagavan only saying me, me? Is it his ego? So Bhagavan doesn't really want anything from us. All of these teachings are for our own benefit. And he also says earlier, we have read about that also, right? Anything which is a higher idea, anything which you place on a pedestal, whatever it may be, place that, hold on to that. And Bhagavan also says that whatever you hold on to, whatever you place on a higher pedestal, whatever you worship, I will manifest in that. So when Bhagavan says me, 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 he is essentially saying that to help us, enable us to have this kind of bhakti, to develop this kind of bhakti. And we have seen that it is bhakti at the end of the day that truly helps a person achieve not just potential, but actually achieve success, achieve fulfillment, and the ultimate goal that the human being may have. And then Bhagavan says that knowledge is greater than practice, meditation greater than knowledge, and renunciation of fruits of action is greater than meditation. Any action performed certainly has a result. Whatever we do will have some result or the other that is linked to that particular action. And thinking of the result while in the action field, while performing the action, even if it is meditation, or actually especially if it is meditation, only results in anxiety. And that anxiety results in a detrimental effect in the performance of the action itself. Thus, karma phala tyaga is the highest sadhana. From that only peace arises immediately. Tyaga chantir anantaram. And Bhagavan now enumerates the qualities of the devotee that are dear to him. Bhagavan will keep saying me priyaha again and again. Qualities that are dear to him. We will go through these in the remaining part of this chapter, Bhakti Yoga. So we'll recite verses 13 and 14 together.
Adveshta sarva bhutanam
Adveshta sarva bhutanam
Maitra karuna evacha
Maitra karuna evacha
Nirmamo nirahankaraha
Nirmamo nirahankaraha
Samadukha sukakshami
Samadukha sukakshami
Santushta satatam yogi
Santushta satatam yogi
Yatatma drida nishchayaha
yatatma drida nishchayah
Mayyarpitamano buddhihi
mayyarpitamano buddhihi
yo madbhakta same priyaha
yo madbhakta same priyah
adveshta sarvabhutanam maitra karuna evacha nirmamo nirahankaraha samadukka sukakshami santushta satatam yogi yatatma drida nishchayaha mayyarpitamano buddhihi yo madbhakta same priyaha.
yo madbhakta same priyah. This person, my devotee, is dear to me. Madbhaktaha, my devotee. Same priyah. Me priyah is dear to me. This bhakta is very dear to me. What is the nature of this bhakta? Bhagavan starts enlisting them, and he has 36 such qualities that he talks about in the remaining verses. So, Adveshta Sarva Bhutanam has no hatred towards all creatures. Adveshta, no hatred at all. Sarva Bhutanam. It is impossible for one who has a feeling of even an iota of hate towards any element of creation, whatever it may be, any aspect that is part of this creation, to develop love for God. That will be the biggest hypocrisy. When you say that I hate or I cause harm to such and such part of his creation, but I love God. It is impossible for that. So, the first quality Bhagavan says, Adveshta Sarva Bhutanam, towards all creatures, no hate. Maitra Karuna Evacha, in fact, is even friendly and compassionate. So, on the contrary to hate, this person is actually friendly and compassionate. Aspects that contribute to development of faith and devotion. Nirmamo nirahankaraha, without attachment and without ego. Nirmamaha, that without that feeling of mama, that is no attachment, mine, that feeling of mine. And nira ahankaraha, no ego, that feeling of I. So no I-ness and no minus. Does not identify with I and mine, which means this person does not have a sense of aham and mama. Remember, we started off Bhagavad Gita with this. Arjuna develops the sense of I and mine, and because of that he goes into shoka and moha, the initial ladder of fall that we talked about. So aham and mama leads to shoka and moha, and shoka and moha further leads to dereliction of duty, non-performance of duty. So nirmamo nirahankaraha. Then samadukha sukha, balanced in pain and pleasure. See, till now Bhagavan has talked about the qualities that this person should have towards the outside world. Now he is saying outside world is going to deal whatever it wants to deal with you. So in that pleasure and the pain that you come to experience, this person is sama, balanced. Sama dukkha sukha. This person, by the way, experiences emotions like any other human being. This person is not a stone or feeling less or anything like that. Experiences everything. Just has the capacity to maintain equanimity through that experience. Kshami, forgiving, patient, tolerant. The forbearance of this person expresses itself as patience and tolerance. Then santushtaha, contented. Satisfaction stems from within. Satatam, always steady. Does not waver based on situations that are around this person. Yogi, a practitioner. A yogi is a practitioner. Dedicated to practice, dedicated to abhyasa. Yatatma, self-control and discipline are part and parcel of the nature of this person. Drida nishchayaha, a person of firm conviction. Mayarpita mano buddhihi, with mind and intellect dedicated to me. The person is refined. When a person practices all of this and has this kind of a nature, the refined feelings of this person, the clear understanding of this person are all centered on Bhagavan. Remember, Bhagavan had said, place your mind and intellect on me, Mano Buddhi. The refined mind and the clear intellect are centered on Bhagavan. Just like the needle of a compass is always pointing due north. Similarly, the faculties of the devotee are all intent on Bhagavan. And Bhagavan says, Me Priyaha, dear to me. So we have heard of the God-fearing devotee. Okay? Actually, God is not the one who instills fear in devotees. It is the human being who has selfish goals that try to instill a false sense of fear of Bhagavan. If you do this, you will get punished by Bhagavan. Bhagavan never instills any kind of fear. Also, when our own wrongdoing, we know, our inner conscience knows that we are doing something wrong. And when our own wrongdoing crosses a threshold of tolerance within, of tolerance outside, of general overall ethical way of living, then a sense of fear develops within us. So God-fearing devotee is not in question at all, actually, as far as Bhagavan is concerned. Now we have God-loving devotee. Of course, devotees love God. There's no question about it. We have heard of, so many devotees. Prahlada, we have heard of Meera, we have heard about, my mother says, Andal, right? So God-loving devotee, absolutely, they are there. And there are some God-loving devotees who have something to expect from Bhagavan with respect to granting wishes that pertain to the samsaric world, the real world. So they have intrinsic faith. They love God. But that love for God is to ask God for something which they need. Then there is another type of God-loving devotee who just pure love for God without any expectations. Maybe only a possibility of a desire of Bhagavan, I want to reach you. That mumukshutva. Otherwise, nothing at all. No expectations. So that is a God-loving, most welcome. God-fearing is not even relevant. God-loving, yes, people are there. But here what does Bhagavan say? Bhagavan says, Same Priyaha, I love you. He loves the devotee. See the beauty of, Sanatana Dharma. See the beauty of Bhagavad Gita. So one who has these qualities, Bhagavan says, I love that person. What more can one ask for than this? And continuing further,
Yasman no dvijate lokaha.
Yasman no dvijate lokaha.
Lokan no dvijate chayaha.
Lokan no dvijate chayaha.
Harsha bhayo dvege.
Harsha bhayo dvegaihi.
Mukto yasa cha me priyaha.
Mukto yasa cha me priyaha.
Yasman no dvijate lokaha. Lokan no dvijate chayaha. Harsha bhayo dvegaihi. Mukto yasa cha me priyaha.
Yasman no dvijate lokaha. By whom the world is not troubled. So very powerful and a very delicate statement indeed. Very powerful because imagine, a human being who causes absolutely no trouble to anyone or anything, any aspect of creation. And delicate also at the same time. Because while one must endeavor to live in a manner so as to not cause any disturbance to anyone or anything, at the same time, this should not get confused with not performing your duty. Oh, I don't want to cause any hurt to anyone. So you know what? I won't do anything. No, absolutely not. That is why a very powerful statement, yet a very delicate statement. Arjuna is a supreme devotee. We know that Bhagavan himself has acknowledged. He has graduated to the level of, say, a Prahalada or a Vibhishna. He is completely devoted, Ananya Bhakti towards Bhagavan now. Nothing else at all. He is about to be a part of a carnage called war. And Bhagavan himself repeatedly encourages Arjuna to fight. So can we say, Yasman nodvijate lokaha? So in such situations, it is important for us to look at the holistic cause and the swadharma and not the isolated action. Sometimes isolated action which seemingly cause harm actually are not causing harm. They are actually causing benefit and for the overall well-being, overall good. Without pain, sometimes there is no pleasure. A surgeon has to open up, cut with a knife in order to fix the deficiency inside. Without cutting and without causing pain, he cannot fix the deficiency inside. Lokan nodvijate chayaha. So at the same time, whatever befalls the devotee, so lokan nodvijate chayaha, by the world, this person is not troubled. Anything that happens in the world or by the world towards him, whatever harm befalls the devotee, it is not viewed as an injury or as a curse or as something which is befallen, something bad, inauspicious. He accepts all afflictions as a blessing of Bhagavan. As a blessing in disguise maybe, but as a blessing of the Supreme, of the one who he is devoted to. So the more, Prahlada is the best example here. The more affliction that was meted out to him, whatever it may be. If you read Prahlada's story, his own father Hiranyakashipu is actually trouble after trouble is being caused to Prahlada, with the aim to finish him off also. But the more affliction that he suffers, the greater and the more delight in his submission to the will of Bhagavan. And then Bhagavan says, Harsha amarsha, bhaya udvega, harsha amarsha bhayodvegaihi, muktaha. Muktaha, free from what? Harsha, which is exhilaration, amarsha, which is envy, bhaya, fear, and udvegaha, anxiety. So free from these four aspects of exhilaration, envy, fear, and anxiety. And Bhagavan says, Ya same priyaha, one who is like this is dear to me. And he continues further.
Anapeksha shuchir dakshaha.
Anapeksha suchir dakshaha.
Udasino gatavyataha.
Udasino gatavyataha.
Sarvarambha parityagi.
Sarvarambha parityagi.
Yo madbhakta samipriyaha.
Yo madbhakta same priyaha.
Anapeksha shuchir dakshaha. Udasino gatavyataha. Sarvarambha parityagi. Yo madbhakta samipriyaha.
Anapeksha, one who does not have any dependence on anyone or anything. See, it is only normal for human beings to have dependence. Why human beings? Even animals, plants, interdependence is most common. In fact, when a human being is born, the human being is the most dependent creature ever you can see. A small human child cannot do anything by himself or herself. Nothing. Can only cry. That's the only thing that the human child can do. Compare that with a calf or with a lion cub or something. Within minutes, they are independent. They are on their own. The human child can't even find food for itself. The human baby. The mother has to guide the child towards her own milk. So completely independent. And then the intellect and the mind of the human being evolves so fast that over a few years, few months to years, it moves from utmost dependency to being independent, and then to being interdependent. And human being is supposed to be, of course, we see that among animals also, a fantastic quality of getting together into a team to achieve greater goal. You know, when you see these flocks of birds fly from one place to the other, they do that in that formation so that each one of them is conserving energy. So the interdependency is a fantastic quality, and human beings have achieved so much because of this interdependency. But then Bhagavan says that the final, after all of that, dependency, independence, and then interdependence. After that, Bhagavan says, become anapekshaha. No dependence on anything or anyone. A true devotee, why is that? Because a true devotee at that level needs inspiration. And that inspiration comes from deep within. And also, not just inspiration, equanimity, the balance, happiness, the core, deep, lasting happiness that we spoke about. All of these come from a source which is deep within. Like, remember we said in the beginning, you know, unlayer, remove all the aspects so that you unveil the divinity within. All of this process that we are learning ultimately unveils the divinity which is within us. Shuchihi, external purity is a must for internal purity. It is said, Bahya Abhyantara Shauchaha. Bahya, external, Abhyantara, internal, Shauchaha. At once, in one of our earlier satsang, you know, it actually instigated quite a bit of discussion. I had spoken about how I talked to sometimes chide my engineers when I used to be part of the technology corporate world. You know, I used to tell them, if your upkeep, you know, the way you wear your clothes, the way you maintain your hands and feet, if that is not clean, how can I trust the quality of the code that you're writing? So external cleanliness is very important for internal cleanliness. Similarly, cluttered thoughts or cluttered mind will lead to cluttered outside also, the way the person behaves in the outside world. Shuchi leads to sattva. And we have seen enough number of times that sattva is most critical to make progress spiritually. Daksha, prompt. Capacity and efficiency to grasp quickly and execute quickly. Mentally agile and intellectually vigorous. Dynamic personality. Daksha. Then Bhagavan says, Udasinaha, neutral, detached, indifferent. And yet, Udasina also means involved. Udasina does not mean, you know, just shut yourself somewhere in a cave or go to the Himalayas where nobody else is there, or just not be accessible to any other element of creation. Not at all. Detached yet involved. Detached involvement. Attachment and bias leads to dissipation of energy. And energy must be conserved for achievement of anything. You know, to win a match, you need to conserve energy. To fly as a flock of birds while migrating, you need to conserve energy. To attain spiritual goal, to attain the ultimate, you need to conserve a lot of energy. So an attitude of detached involvement conserves energy to ensure that that energy is utilized for essential pursuits only. Gatavyataha, free from inner tremors, inner trembling. Inner trembling fundamentally originates from desires. And these are deep-rooted desires. A Gatavyataha is one who is free of inner tremors, which means the person is free from desires. See, earlier Bhagavan had spoken about a Kshami. A Kshami is one who does not, or who has the forbearance to bear with external tremors, because the environment is going to cause tremors to us. So the Shami is one who has that forbearance. The Gatavyata is one who is internally free of tremors. Sarvarambha Parityagi. Sarva Arambha. Any undertaking, anything that is begun, Parityagi, renouncing. We always begin something with the goal to achieve something, to attain something. So the seeker does not initiate anything for gain. So the seeker fundamentally renounces all beginnings. Again, all beginnings renouncing doesn't mean the seeker doesn't do anything. So doesn't do anything for selfish gain. Actually, we foolishly believe that we create or we begin, that we initiate. It's a foolish belief which stems from ego. I have done it. I started it. It stems from ego. In reality, all actions are essentially part of an eternal pattern. Some kind of this beautiful pattern that this universe is, universe has or universe is part of. Each one of us is part of that. And this oneness of the universe, that is what this Parityagi is aware of. He knows very clearly, or she knows very clearly, that I am not the cause of or the reason behind anything that is begun. I am only an instrument where in the hands of Bhagwan. I am only a part of this grand design, and I am not an independent agent. So the thought that came to my mind here was this guy Novak Djokovic. Okay, he just made a statement which was, to my mind, absolutely, one-sided, crazy statement. He didn't play Australian Open. And then he comes down and he says that controlling what goes into my body is more important than winning tournaments for me. At the same time, in the same sequence of discussion, he also said that this fight against this, this corona is very important. See, what Djokovic misses here is, he is not just a selfish person anymore who is concerned about himself and his body. He has millions and millions of fans. He's part of a game. He's part of a system. He's part of an ecosystem, actually. And all that he cast aside because of his ego. The other thing is, he personally is responsible for spreading corona. He himself got it, and he's freely engaging with others, and personally, possibly, I don't want to accuse him, possibly responsible for spreading corona, and he agrees that it should be fought against. So in this working of this universe, in this bigger game plan, who is going to be left out? Who is going to be completely cast aside? It's going to be him. So we have to understand that we are not the critical element of anything being done. We are just a small piece of all elements put together. Nothing but an instrument in Bhagwan's hands. And when we are like that, we are able to be Sarvarambha Parityagi. And Bhagwan says these qualities, Yo Mad Bhakta Same Priya, such a devotee of mine, Yo Mad Bhakta, such a devotee of mine, Same Priya is dear to me. And continuing further,
Yo na hrishyati na dveshti,
Yo na hrishyati na dveshti,
na shochati na kankshati,
na shochati na kankshati,
Shubha Shubha Parityagi,
Shubha Shubha Parityagi,
Bhaktimanya Same Priyaha,
Bhaktiman Same Priyaha,
Yo na hrishyati na dveshti, na shochati na kankshati, Shubha Shubha Parityagi, Bhaktimanya Same Priyaha.
Yo na hrishyati na dveshti, neither rejoices nor hates. Shrishya, rejoicing. Dveshti, hating. The true seeker is ever fulfilled in the devotion of Bhagavan. Complete fulfillment, complete contentment, complete happiness. So nothing else which is coming in and going, that doesn't add or deplete from this full contentment. It's like the ocean. You know, rivers fall into the ocean. Water keeps evaporating all the time. Do we see the ocean kind of going down? Tide is different, but the level of the ocean doesn't go down and come up again and again. As much of river waters flow into it, it's not as if the lands are going to get flooded. Or as much of water that is taken away from it, it's not as if the ocean is going to get dry. I'm not talking about ozone depletion and all the other things, you know, which humanity is contributing to. That we have discussed in a different context. Okay, but fundamentally, following nature, the ocean doesn't deplete, the ocean doesn't overflow. It's to the brim. This person's happiness, contentment is to the brim. Nothing that is perpetuated to this person takes away or adds to it. Na shochati na kankshati. Neither grieves nor desires. Grief comes from letting go of a possession. Grief is a cause, or it stems from that thing of not wanting to let go because it's mine, I possess. Desire comes from wanting to possess, which is not there. This person's only possession is that bhakti for Bhagavan. So no question of grieving or of desire. Shubha Shubha Parityagi. Shubha Ashubha. Parityagi, again renouncing. Sarvarambha he had said, here he is saying Shubha Ashubha. Renouncing the auspicious or Shubha and the inauspicious. The Ashubha. Anything that arouses a feeling of joy in us is auspicious for us or good, that good happened. So what good news do you have, right? Because it creates joy. And anything that arouses a feeling of sorrow in us, that is inauspicious or bad. This person who is inspired only by the Supreme is beyond good and bad occurrences. Bhaktiman yes same priyaha. One who is full of devotion, Bhaktiman. Bhaktiman, full of devotion. In this manner is dear to me. Continuing, Bhagavan says, we'll recite verses 18 and 19 together.
Samashatrau cha mitre cha.
Samashatrau cha mitre cha.
Tata manapamanayoho.
Tatha manapamanayoho.
Shitoshna sukha dukkeshu.
Shitoshna sukha dukkeshu.
Samasanga vivarjitaha.
Samasanga vivarjitaha.
Tulya nindastutir mauni.
Tulya nindastutir mauni.
Santushto yena kenachit.
Santushto yena kenachit.
Aniketastiramatihi.
Aniketastiramatihi.
Bhaktiman me priyo naraha.
Bhaktiman me priyo naraha.
Samashatrau cha mitre cha. Tata manapamanayoho. Shitoshna sukha dukkeshu. Samasanga vivarjitaha. Tulya nindastutir mauni. Santushto yena kenachit. Aniketastiramatihi. Bhaktiman me priyo naraha.
Samashatrau cha mitre. The same to friend and foe. This person does not have a friend and this person does not have enemies. When someone demonstrates friendships to this person or enmity to this person is the same towards both. Tatha manapamanayoho. The same in honor and dishonor. Mana and apamana. manapamanayoho. Cha sukha dukkeshu, and the same in joy and sorrow. Honor, dishonor, joy, sorrow. These are judgments of the intellect. So the intellect tells us, hey, I have been honored. Hey, I have been dishonored. Hey, I have got joy. Hey, I have got sorrow. It tells us what is honor and what is dishonor. And then it is also feeling of the mind. The mind feels honored. The mind feels dishonor. The mind feels joy. The mind feels sorrow. So honor, dishonor, joy, sorrow are judgments of the intellect and feelings of the mind. See, watching a boat toss across in the ocean, sitting in a hotel room by the beach, enjoying the beautiful ocean view, and you see these boats that are tossing up and down. Smaller boats will be tossing much more, larger boats will be tossing lesser. And then in the horizon, you will see these ships which are seemingly still. But they are all tossing. Even if you sit in that ship inside, the huge, massive ship in the ocean, the tossing is absolutely crazy. So being inside, watching from the shore is beautiful. Being inside the ship and experiencing the tossing may not be pleasant. For most people, it is not pleasant. That's what is called seasickness. This person who is this seeker, this person watches, this devotee watches the goings on in the mind and the intellect from afar, from a distance. Doesn't get tossed about with the goings on in the mind and intellect. Shitoshna, the same in heat and cold. So like the mind and intellect, Shitoshna is experienced by the body. The chill and the heat are experienced by the body. And this person is not affected by either. Gurudev Swami Chinmayananda puts this beautifully, and I quote, by remembering the preparation of nitric acid in the lab, my thoughts do not get corroded. By feeling the smoldering beauty of the burning embers in a fireplace, my mind cannot get blisters. My knowledge or my capacity to love cannot freeze in the North Pole and cannot get evaporated in the Sahara Desert. Unquote. What a beautiful way to put across this aspect of Shitoshna. And Bhagavan says, Sangha Varjita, free from attachment. See, he has just spoken about these three elements, right? Mana, Apamana, Sukha, Dukkha, Shitoshna. These are the plays of the mind, intellect, and body. All three. These are experiences of, they kind of umbrella, or they are the holistic aspect of all experiences of life. Physical, intellectual, and mental. And in all of them, this true devotee is unagitated. Why? Because Sangha Vivarjitaha is free from attachment. And continuing, Bhagavan says, Tulya Ninda Stutihi, equal in censure and in praise. Stutihi, praise, Ninda, censure, criticism. Now, this person is again not immune to insult or praise. Okay, and the person is not dull to not know that there is an insult or praise. The person is very intelligent, so knows when there is insult, knows when there is praise. But he is not immune to insult or praise. He is just equal in both. While the person is not immune, it does affect, or it's at least recognized. I shouldn't say it affects, it is recognized and is intelligent enough to know about them. But why is this person equal? Because compared to this experience that comes from pure devotion, compared to the divine experience that comes from pure devotion, compared to that, this insult and praise, whatever comes from that, there is no significance to that. There is no importance to that. Because the person is already living in a much more ecstatic sphere or ecstatic grid, if I may use that word. Mauni. Mauni means is silent within. Silent within is the real silence. Maintaining physical silence you know. But even let's say a Jain Muni, for example, having a tape or a band in the mouth, but the mind inside is, you know, racing, running loose completely. Right? In the first part of Bhagavad Gita, we saw, right? We saw the contrast between Arjuna and Krishna. Arjuna was not acting nothing, but then his mind, there was chaos inside his mind. Whereas Krishna, who was actually performing his duty as the charioteer, he was absolutely calm and stable and sama. So, Mauni is one whose internal mind is silent. The mind that is running loose in presence of physical silence, you know, there is fear of repression. There is chance of repression. So it is better to express what is there in the mind so as to silence it. Once it is expressed, at least chances of mind becoming silent is a lot more. It is best to have a silent mind. Santushto yena kenachit. Contented with anything. The world dishes out anything and everything to anyone and everyone. One who is ever contented is a true seeker. Aniketaha, houseless, yet at home. This devotee is never hankering for a roof over the head, never hankering for a shelter, never hankering for material possessions. I want this, I want that. At the same time is at home in any condition, anywhere. At home in luxury, at home in deprivation, whatever it may. At home in the comfort of a nice temperature controlled room, at home in the mountains where it is chilling, freezing, or in the desert where it is absolutely hot and dusty. At home everywhere. Why? Because Bhagavan is living in the person's heart at all times. Sthiramatihi, steady-minded, steadfast in understanding of the goal. Sthiramatihi, bhaktiman, full of devotion, ananya bhakti. And Bhagavan says, me priyo naraha. This person, naraha, this person is dear to me. And then he concludes in verse 20.
Yetu dharmyamritamidam
Yetu dharmyamritamidam
yatoktam paryupasate
yathoktam paryupasate
shraddhadhana matparamaha
Shraddhadhana matparamaha
bhaktastetiva me priyaha
Bhaktastetiva me priyaha
Yetu dharmyamritamidam yadoktam paryupasate shraddhadhana matparamaha bhaktastetiva me priyaha.
Tu indeed, ye, who, paryupasate, follows, idam, this, dharmyamritam, immortal dharma, yathoktam, as declared above, shraddhadana, endowed with faith, matparamaha, regarding me as the supreme, te, such, bhakta, devotee or devotee, ativa is exceedingly priya, dear me to me. So indeed, those who follow this immortal dharma as declared above, endowed with faith regarding me as supreme, such devotees are exceedingly dear to me. Bhagavan till now I said dear to me, dear to me. He is exceedingly dear to me. Why? Because till now he pointed one by one by one. And for a set of 3 or 4, he said they are dear to me. Here he is saying those who follow all of this. So how does a human being live life? See, we have been told in explicit terms earlier, right? That focusing on the outcome of our various actions while in the field of performance is detrimental to that action, outcome of that action itself. And then if it were said to us to seekers. If you follow this in this manner, then the outcome would be that you would be exceedingly dear to Bhagwan. Any devotee would gleefully follow that. Devotee, seeker, not anybody and everybody, by the way. This, now we have graduated to the level of a focused seeker, would gleefully follow such a director. If it is said to a true seeker, it is actually being said. And who is saying it? Sri Krishna himself. So Sri Krishna here gives us the way to live life. This verse is a beautiful, fantastic verse of the Bhagavad Gita. It gives us the way to live life. Of course, not on its own, because this verse refers to the previous verses too. Hinduism is a term given to Sanatana Dharma by the Western people, right? Sanatana Dharma is nothing but eternal way to live righteously. And what Bhagavan is saying here? Dharmyamritam. Eternal way to live life righteously. So Sanatana Dharma is what Bhagavan is telling us. He lays it down here for all of us to follow. The Dharmyamritam, immortal Dharma, nectarine values. Some things, in my mind, they kind of have left an indelible impression. One of the things that I love is that C. Rajagopalachari's commentary, right? I've heard it from when I was a kid. I've quoted it many times. One thing that I've never quoted, which I love, is this. It was a dark and stormy night in the deep seas. Captain, we have a serious problem. What is it? There's a ship in our sea lane about 20 miles away and they won't move. Tell them to move. We told them, sir, they won't. I will tell them, the captain says. The signal goes out. Move starboard 20 degrees at once. Signal comes back. Move starboard yourself 20 degrees at once. What? This is crazy. Do they know who I am? This is Captain Horatio Hornblower, the 26th, commanding you to move starboard 20 degrees at once. The signal comes back. This is Seaman Carl Jones, the 3rd, commanding you to move starboard 20 degrees at once. Is this a joker who is doing all this? We are a battleship. We can blow him out of our way. Tell them that. Let them know who we are. The signal goes out. This is the mighty Missouri, the flagship of the 6th Fleet of battleships. The signal comes back. This is the lighthouse. So Stephen Covey's Lighthouse Principles, you must read, I love it. Principles that govern life, which must be followed in order to lead a successful and fulfilling life. Stephen Covey is a modern management. He's been there for more than 25, 30 years, but still people read his books. The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Effective people, beautiful topic also, right? And then he came up with the 8th habit also. So Lighthouse Principles, says Covey, are laws of nature that govern life. We think that we govern it. We think we govern our life. And we behave in this belief that we govern our life. But the consequences of this behavior with that thought, thinking that we govern, those consequences are governed by these principles. And Bhagavan Sri Krishna said ages ago, long before Kavi, Dharmyamritam, immortal dharma. So lighthouse is a steady thing in the ocean, or in the shore. It can be anywhere. This is the steady aspect of life. Yathoktam, he says, as declared above. All 33 of them. There are actually 30. If we count Harsha, Amarsha, Bhaya, and Udvega as 4 separate ones, then it is 36. Being free from exhilaration, envy, fear, and anxiety. And Bhagavan says, Paryupasate, follow them. Follow this immortal dharma as declared above. each one of the 36 must be honored and respected. And together, it should be put into a synergistic whole. And Bhagavan also tells us how to put it in a synergistic whole. How can this be achieved by all of us? See, developing a set of values in itself is very difficult. It's very easy to live life casually. Developing values and then integrating it into life and abiding with it is even more difficult. Developing is difficult. Integrating is difficult. Following it and living by it is even more difficult. Well nigh impossible, you can say. I have experienced this myself because in my company, for maybe around 25 years now, across companies, I have a set of 12 values and 10 company principles that team members must follow in order to help the organization achieve its goals. I can tell you it was well nigh impossible for my HR team to get them implemented and followed. And there are very few companies who live by the values that they stand for, by the principles that they have signed up as a team to follow. So some of these values, I'll take a few minutes, we have time. So there are 3 values that I had put, okay? Individual level, team level, organization level. At an individual level, there were 4 values: ownership, innovation, accountability, and leadership. Now, I can't go into details of all of this because that will take one full day. So 4 values at an individual level that individuals should follow as individuals. Then 4 values that individuals should follow as team members: collaboration, trust, openness, and escalation. And 4 values that individuals should follow as members of the organization: speed or agility, quality, alignment, and growth. And I used to tell them that choose one from each of these levels: individual, team, and organization. Choose one and follow. Take ownership of that one. Put in effort to follow it. The others will automatically come. For example, if you take ownership of anything, innovation will happen, accountability will be there, leadership will come about. By the way, leadership is an individual quality. If you decide that you will trust, collaboration is there, you will be open, there will be openness within the team, and escalation will happen on its own. At an organization level, if we say that I'm aligned to the organization goal and I put in an effort, speed and agility will come on its own. Quality will be there. Growth mindset will come in place. So choosing one, others do happen. And Bhagavan now makes no bones about it. Okay? He says the only way to follow them, paryupasate, is Shraddha Dhana, endowed with faith. Mat Paramaha, regarding me as supreme. And when a seeker does that, Bhaktas te tiva me priyaha, such a devotee, ativa, is exceedingly dear to me. So we can also try and choose out of this 36, let us choose one. And we will see magically that we start doing the others also. But Bhagavan says you have to follow all 36. There is no shortcut. But I can tell you that doing one helps in the others. So what is our sadhana for this chapter? Did we miss it out? No, we did not miss it out. Paryupasite dharmyamritam yathoktam. Follow the immortal dharma as declared by Bhagavan Sri Krishna. All of them, all 36 of them. Let us try one by one, and then let us try and integrate all of them into our lives. Let us not be God-fearing. Let us be God-living. And let us follow this eternal dharma, the Sanatana dharma, dharmyamritam, the nectarine values, so that God also loves us dearly. Hari Om, thank you. Om Tat Saditi. Yeah.
Should I repeat the verses and then?
Okay, yeah.
So we'll repeat today's verses, chapter 12, 13 to 20. Adveshta sarva bhutana maitra karuna esha nirmamo nirahantaraha समदुःखसुखक्षमी सन्तुष्ट सततं योगी यतात्मा दृढनिश्चयः मय्यर्पितमनो बुद्धिः यो मद्भक्तः स मे प्रियः यस्मान्नो द्विजते लोकः लोकानो द्विजते श्रेयः हर्षामर्षभयोद्वेगैः मुक्तो यः स च मे प्रियः अनपेक्षशुचिर्दक्षः उदासीनो गतव्यतः सर्वारम्भपरित्यागी यो मद्भक्तः स मे प्रियः यो न हृष्यति न द्वेष्टि न शोचति न काङ्क्षति शुभाशुभपरित्यागी भक्तिमान्यः स मे प्रियः समशत्रौ च मित्रे च तथा मानापमानयोः शीतोष्णसुखदुःखेषु समसङ्गविवर्जितः तुल्यनिन्दास्तुतिर्मौनी सन्तुष्टो येन केनचित् अनिकेतस्थिरमतिः भक्तिमान् मे प्रियो नरः ये तु धर्म्यामृतमिदं यथोक्तं पर्युपासते श्रद्धधाना मत्परमाः भक्तास्तेतीव मे प्रियाः। ॐ तत्सदिति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासु उपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुनसंवादे भक्तियोगो नाम 12ोऽध्यायः।
Om Tat Saditi Srimad Bhagavad Gita Upanishadsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Bhakti Yogo Nama Dvadashodhyayah.
Om Asatu Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityurma Amritam Gamaya Om Purnamadam Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om.
So though we have done Purnamada, part of Purnamada we have to, at the end of the chapter, sadhana. So we'll go through the sadhana of all chapters. Chapter 1, we said watch for Shoka and Moha, remove them. Chapter 2, Samatvam Yoga Uchyate. Chapter 1 actually seek to remove them, like Arjuna does. Chapter 2, verse 48, Samatvam Yoga Uchyate. Maintain equipoise in extremities. Chapter 3, verse 19, Samachara. Perform actions with utmost devotion, dedication and perfection. Chapter 4, verse 18, Karmanyak Karmayak Paschet. Not being the doer while doing. How do you do that? By seeing inaction in action. You have to practice that. Chapter 5, verse 10, Padma Patram Ivam Bhasa. Just like a lotus petal is untouched by water, be untouched by worldly experiences while in contact with them. Chapter 6, verse 30, Mam Pashyati Sarvatra, Sarvam Cha Mai Pashyati. Sees me everywhere and sees everything in me. Practice this, especially when in meditation. Chapter 7, we had 2, verse 12 and verse 7. Nat tvaham teshu te mai. Indeed, I am not in them, they are in me. We have to be aware of this. The pure consciousness untouched in the midst of varied thoughts. And verse 7, Mai sarvamidam protam sutre maniganaiva. All the variety is strung in me, just like gems on a string. Chapter 8, Sarveshu Kaleshu, at all times, every moment. Mamanusmara, remember me. Yudhyacha, perform your duties. Chapter 9, verse 27. Yat karoshi tat kurushva madarpanam. Whatever you do, that you do as an offering to me, whatever it may be. Chapter 10, verse 41. Yad yad vibhuti mat sattvam mama tejom shasham bhavam. Whatever glorious experience that is part of this manifested world, this manifestation is part of my splendor. Chapter 11, verse 33. Nimitta matram bhava. Be an instrument in his hands. Take up the role of being an instrument to carry out his grand plans. And then in chapter 11, we also had sadhana for entire Bhagavad Gita in verse 55. Mat karma krita, does actions for me. Mat paramaha, holding me as supreme. Mad bhaktaha, devoted to me. Sangha varjita, free from, devoid of attachment. Nirvairaha sarva bhuteshu, without any enmity towards all creatures. And chapter 12, this chapter, Bhakti Yoga, which we just finished, Paryupasate dharmyamritam yatoktam. Follow the immortal dharma as declared by Bhagavan Sri Krishna. So these are the sadhanas that we must remember and we must go through at least once in a while. And then as part of the sadhana for chapter 12, Paryupasate dharmyamritam yatoktam. As part of that, Bhagavan has given us 36 sadhanas, which we have to follow. So these are our sadhanas. Thank you, Hari Om. Any thoughts, comments?
Yes,
So, one second, my mother is also saying something. Later finish, yeah.
This Ramanuja's Visishtadvaita philosophy, he laid out the sacred fives. I used to build this knowing about God and knowing about ourselves and knowing about the path to reach Him and the obstacles that stand on the way and the final goal, moksha, reaching God and enjoying Him in His Paramapada. And the other is, this is Artha Panchakam. Other is Anga Panchakam. It's like he laid out this five angas for Charanagati. That is Anukulya Sankalpa. To please God. That is what we say. Mama Priya, Mama Priya, Mama Priya. That's my favorite word. God is so sweet. He gives us all the tips to reach Him, to this and Anukulya Sankalpam is to all this all this we heard Sri told us today. I was reminding of that just to teach him, to make him, to make us this Mama Priya, his favorites. And Pratikulya Varjanam, not to displease him by doing wrong acts. And Anukulya Sankalpam, Pratikulya Varjanam, Atma Nikshepe Karpanyam. That is to, he is the only savior. And we should do our Charanagati to him. No one can save us. No one else can save us. And all our life should be according to the rules laid down by the Shastras. Throughout he was saying, telling about the external cleanliness and all. I was reminding of my mother. My mother-in-law used to get up early in the morning, clean all the house and cleaning the gods, and even cleaning them before with gobar and mud, the chula, the koila chula, we used to, and put kolam on that also, Rangoli. Shankha Chakra with God's Shankha and Chakra. And in front of the house, we used to put Rangoli with rice flour, not with this stone powder. Nowadays they put, and this bird sitting on it, and even we used to do in front of us and daily. And birds, sparrows coming and sitting and eating, and giving the crows food before we eat. All those things. And the dog, when you feed the children, we feed the dogs. So we call the dogs and feed them. All the environment and all, it's all included in our daily routine and life. It is nothing difficult to follow. It was just in our routine. And the house was so clean and nice with all, and we used to take bath early in the morning and cook. Not putting the cooker and going here and there. Even the fire gods, they used to do like production rice and put a little bit of fire and pray. Like each and every act of ours is dedicated to God. And it was nice to think of good old days. Better we should follow those and please Krishna, Samema Priya Priya. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Karika, you were saying something.
Yeah, we'll do the Bhagavad Gita Aarti.
Yes, yeah, we'll do.
Can I have a question?
Yes, please.
Yeah, this fear factor and the love factor to me seems like two different sides of the same coin. Sometimes we need to put in the fear to get the affection, like in a get the right path, or like a small child. When you tell the child, you do well, get so much marks, I'll give you a sweet. And if you fail or you do get less marks, you're going to be punished, I won't send you out to play. So it is that fear that makes the child do well. Same way, if you say, if you rob, God is going to punish you. So you're instilling a fear in the child so that he does the right thing. And that automatically leads to affection in the long run. And same way in this chapter, I wanted to know, what is it that that leads us more towards God? Is it bhakti leads to jnana, or jnana leads to bhakti? Or we choose what we like and that leads to the other?
Sure. So on the first part, see, actually this God-fearing part, I brought this up as part of my commentary. That's because there is so much of God-fearing nowadays, right? That's why, in fact, some of the older texts you read, you don't find even famous, well-known Gurujis like even Swami Chinmayananda or Paramahamsa Yogananda. They don't talk about this in this context. In the entire Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan never talks about fear. The only time there is this fear element of God that comes up is when in his Vishwarupa, Arjuna sees elements that are destructive in nature. That is the only time there is, even Arjuna develops a fear for the Vishwarupa Bhagavan that is being projected in front of him. So, and for that also we studied the reason, the explanation why that happens. It's by our own misdeeds that we inculcate fear. Bhagavan does not give or desire to put any fear in us. To check our misdeeds, if those who are learned, who are better learned than us, who know more than us, if they want to instill some fear, up to a point in time, it's okay. Beyond a point in time, it's not okay. That is why one must always graduate. You have to go from class 6 to 7 to 8 to 12 to college to beyond, right? You can't cling on to your teacher. Similarly, you can't cling on to your spiritual guru also for life. At some stage, one has to go out. Because that's why they say Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana also, right? Shravana is when you just listen to the guru and follow in that case. Manana is when you have discussion, you have debates, even arguments, counter questioning, and so on and so forth. And Nididhyasana is when you go into yourself and start meditating, when you start dwelling, and when you start focusing on that Bhagavan. And so one has to graduate from, so in a stage where you're supposed to be doing Manana or Nididhyasana, if fear is instilled, then it is counterproductive. If fear is instilled in the initial stage, then it may be acceptable, not necessarily acceptable, but for a temporary short period of time, if it is there, okay. I mean, we have grown up, having fear. Now I see my father, sometimes it's so helpless. When I was a child, I used to tremble in front of him.
Yeah, but that concept of spare the rod and spoil the child is no more there.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And even in organized corporations, they say carrot and stick policy. So all these are there. But yeah, if you have to trust that the person who has that authority uses it in the right manner. So on the second part, does jnana lead to bhakti or bhakti lead to jnana? I think first, I would personally like to believe that karma leads to both. Performing karma yoga leads to both. In which sequence or in which order, I would say, it's up to us. typically at the end of it, so bhakti can lead to jnana, jnana can lead to bhakti. It's immaterial, but in the ultimate, at the end, whether jnana led to bhakti or bhakti led to jnana, at the end you need ananya bhakti. That is the what is the word I had used earlier? The foundation, what permeates through all of it is that ananya bhakti. The base for everything is ananya bhakti, whether it is jnana or whether it is bhakti. That ultimate single-pointed devotion is the ultimate. And that's why Bhagavan keeps saying that again and again and again. He says, follow karma yoga, you'll realize. He says that. Okay, be a jnana yogi, you'll realize. He says that. But right through everything, he keeps saying ultimately bhakti, bhakti. He keeps repeating, and it permeates right through all of those aspects.
Thank you.
But at that stage, it doesn't matter, no? Because at that stage, you are much beyond, in much forward in your journey. There, like we said today, right? The travails and tribulations of the world doesn't affect this person because this person the seeker is so in depth in the devotion for Bhagavan. So when the seeker is so full of love for God, then small little upheavals in life doesn't hold any significance. So when we are at that stage of spiritual evolution, jnana, bhakti, all that doesn't hold any significance because you are facing, like we say that the proximity of Bhagavan, right? You are in the proximity of Bhagavan, you are extremely evolved spiritually. It doesn't matter. So when you are a brilliant player of a tennis shot or a cricket shot, okay, when it comes to you so naturally, whether you learned reading the book or whether you learned it devoted to your coach is become irrelevant. Whether Sachin Tendulkar, I even forgot his coach's name. He's very famous, right? Sachin Tendulkar's coach, Ashrekar, yeah. So whether Tendulkar learned Ramakant Ashrekar, yes. Whether he learned that shot by being devoted to Ramakant Ashrekar or whether he learned that shot reading the manuals of cricket, it's irrelevant. It's the devotion behind that shot that flows, that perfection in that shot, that samachara in that shot, that is what is. So similarly, when we get to that level of perfection spiritually, how does it matter? Jnana, bhakti, everything is there. We must do Bhagavad Gita Aarti, but I'll pause for some questions if there are any, or thoughts or comments.
I have a question. So this question is based on all the 36 sadhanas that you mentioned, and it's an exhaustive list. I was thinking, being in this normal life with all the janjat of family or work or whatever that is that I do, I wonder how I'll be able to do or even pursue one of it at least. I need to denounce everything and be a seeker. I don't know, it sounds quite impossible. So for a beginner like me, what would be the first step?
Choose whichever most appeals to you. See, it's not just these 36 sadhanas, right? These 36 sadhanas are for the accomplished seeker, by the way. See, we are now specifying sadhana from chapter 1 onwards. So if you look at it, ultimately we will, at the end of all our satsangs, we will have one sadhana for every chapter, that is 18 sadhanas. Then we'll have the 5 sadhanas that were there as a Bhagavad Gita sadhana in chapter 11. And then we'll have this 35, because I'm including 18, these 35 or 36, whichever way you put it, sadhanas, right? So 36 plus 18 plus 5. So out of all of this, 46, 54, 59, pick the easiest that you, if you just go through whatever we have done till now, Okay, just read through them. Whichever appeals to you most, take that. And I sincerely believe, and it has worked, that you pick up one and do it, you will automatically start seeing the others, a few others. When you read that, actually you say, oh yeah, this is familiar. You know why it is familiar? Because you've been doing it even before reading it. See, if we are all karma yogis, and you know, we are obviously practicing this and studying this because we have been pretty good at our karma yoga. We've been sincere. Okay, we have not followed shortcuts. We have not tried to cheat anybody. We have done our job sincerely. That's why, otherwise we wouldn't have been here today. Okay. Some of the practices you did there, when you read Bhagavad Gita, it will be very familiar because you have done it without even reading Bhagavad Gita. So you pick and choose what appeals to you.
Okay, got it.
Okay, shall we do Bhagavad Gita Aarti?
Om Jaya Bhagavad Gita Maya Jaya
Bhagavad Gita
Hariya Kamala Viharini Hariya Kamala Viharini Sundara Saraswati Om Jaya Bhagavad Gita Karma Sumarma Prakashini Kama Sakti Hara Maya Kama Sakti Hara Tattva-jnana Vikashini Tattva-jnana Vikashini Vidya Brahmavara Om Jaya Bhagavad Gita Nischala Bhakti Vidayini Nirmala Malahari Maya Nirmala Malahari Sharanarahasya Pradayini Sharanarahasya Pradayini Sabvidhi Sukhakari Om Jaya Bhagavad Gita Ragadvesha Vidharini Karini Mudha Sada Maya Karini Mudha Sada Bhava Bhaya Harini Tarini Bhava Bhaya Harini Tarini Paramananda Prada Om Jaya Bhagavad Gita Asura Bhava Vinashini Nashini Tamarajani Maya Nashini Tamarajani Devi Sadgunadayini Devi Sadgunadayini Hari Rasika Sajani Om Jaya Bhagavad Gita Samata Tyaga Sikhavani Hari Mukha Ki Bani Maya Hari Mukha Ki Bani Sakala Shastra Ki Swamini Sakala Shastra Ki Swamini Shrutiyo Ki Rani Om Jaya Bhagavad Gita Daya Sudha Bharasavini Matu Kripa Ki Jai Maya Matu Kripa Ki Jai Hari Pad Prema Dan Kar Hari Pad Prema Dan Kar Apno Kar Lijai Om Jaya Bhagavad Gita Om Jaya Bhagavad Gita Maya Jaya Bhagavad Gita Hariya Kamala Viharini Hariya Kamala Viharini Sundara Supaniti Om Jaya Bhagavad Gita Om Jaya Bhagavad Gita Om Jaya Bhagavad Gita.
So it's good to see Geetanjali and JV also joined. I think jet lag is over. So very nice. Welcome back after a couple of sessions. I think it is. Any other thoughts, questions, or comments? Okay, if nothing else, then we will say Hari Om and meet next Saturday. We'll start chapter 13. Thank you. Hari Om.